Happy Wednesday, friends and family of Grace Lutheran Church. Today we are talking about our hymn of the day for All Saints Day, which is this Sunday at Grace Lutheran Church. And our hymn of the day is The God of Abraham Praise. It's number 798 in the Lutheran Service Book. And I learned a lot about this hymn this week, and I have some history that came from Walter Krieger in the Companion to the Hymns from CPH that I really want to share with you. This hymn is a paraphrase of a Hebrew hymn, which is called the Yigdal Elohim High. And it's a Hebrew hymn that's based on the 13 Articles of Faith from 12th century important Jewish leader and teacher Moses Maimonides. And the hymn probably comes after Maimonides' time in the late 13th or early 14th century. And it's still sung in synagogue to this day. So you'll notice if you look in our hymnal that our hymn is credited to a man named Thomas Olivers, who lived from 1725 to 1799. And Olivers was a Methodist minister operating in the, like I said, the 1700s. And he came to know of this Hebrew hymn from a visit to the Great Synagogue in London that he took with Charles Wesley. And they went there to hear a young cantor named Meyer Leon sing. And this was common practice. Many Jews and non-Jews would go to do this because his voice was very well renowned. And the Yigdal Elohim High would have been sung at this service. And Olivers was so taken by it that he decided to rework the hymn for the Christian church. The God of Abraham Praise is the result of that work. It was first published around 1770, and the version that we have now in our hymnal contains 9 of Olivers' original 12 verses of this hymn. And it sings, if you look through the lyrics, much like a psalm or another song that would be found in our scriptures. It recounts the deeds and the character of the God of Abraham. And it's a theologically sound song of praise to the one true God. Now, while the history of this hymn I think makes it very interesting, the history also makes me a little bit uncomfortable, and let me explain to you why that is. If you watched last week's video, then you will know that the church often sings paraphrases of the Psalms that are then Christianized, if that's a word, to reflect the present reality of Christ's salvation in places where our psalmists in the Old Testament were still looking to the future hope of that salvation. And Neil, who wrote our hymn from last week, he wrote many paraphrases like that. But this hymn is different from those psalm paraphrases because remember, it's based on a Hebrew hymn that reflects Maimonides' 13 Articles of Faith from the 12th century. So these articles, they're mainly pretty good, right? They sound like a decent pre-Christian, pre-Christ summary of some of the realities of the God of Abraham and of the Jewish faith that we might read in the Old Testament. But these 13 Articles of Faith, while they might sound like good pre-Christ articles, they're not pre-Christ. These are articles of faith that were written by a religious teacher who had heard about the Christ and rejected him as the Messiah. And so these Maimonides' 13 articles are not articles of faith about the God of Abraham at all, because the God of Abraham is God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Maimonides didn't believe in Jesus or in the Holy Spirit as persons of the Trinity. So this song is a song of praise to a God, but it is not a song of praise to the God of Abraham, if that makes sense to you guys. And if it doesn't, please ask me a question because I'd love to explain it to you a little bit better. But our hymn for this week, The God of Abraham Praise, unlike a hymn like last week's The Man Is Ever Blessed, which was a versification of Psalm 1, this hymn isn't taking Old Testament truths and bringing them into New Testament life. It's taking false religion and making it truth. And perhaps it makes me feel uncomfortable because it feels a little bit like appropriation. It's like taking a song of praise to a Hindu god and then changing some of the words to make it about Christ. Or when I was talking to Pastor about it over lunch, he said he compared it to someone of a different religion taking a song like A Mighty Fortress and making it about their God. I mean, we know what that hymn is really about if we hear it, even if we hear it sung in a different church. We know who it was written about. And that's probably a little bit different. This maybe isn't fair of me to say. After all, this hymn is a complete reworking of that Hebrew hymn, and it has a completely different tune from the Yigdal Elohim High, but it is something to think about. And I know that it has changed the way that I will look at this hymn every time we open our hymnal to sing it. So on that note, I will leave you to ponder. Like I said, if you have any questions, please don't be afraid to drop a comment or something, and we'll see if we can address them. I hope you guys learned something today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.